Hi, my name's Derek, and today I want to show you how to recreate recipes, even if those recipes are in a language you don't understand. Here's a recipe on Glazy that has a great photo, and I want to try to recreate it in my own studio. But looking down at the materials, I noticed that I don't know what these materials are. I can't even understand the language. But that's not going to be a problem. Let's open up this recipe in the Glazy calculator. Alright, here we are in the calculator, and I'm going to click the Target button. You can see that the original analysis and the new analysis are the same because it's the same recipe. For a quick test, let's see if Glazy can solve this analysis using the exact same materials. Clicking Solve, Glazy comes up with what looks to be a slightly different recipe, but it has the same analysis as the original. We've just proven that Glazy can recreate this recipe using the same materials, but our goal is to use our own materials. So let's just delete all these materials and start from scratch. Alright, I've deleted all the materials, and now I'll click Solve. You can see that Glazy has used basic, theoretical materials to solve the original analysis, so that both the original and the new analysis are the same. My next goal is to replace some of these theoretical materials with real-world materials that I have in my studio. Let's start with the feldspar. Instead of potassium feldspar, I'll choose Custer. Clicking Solve, you'll see that Glazy comes up with, again, the same analysis as the original. Instead of the theoretical kaolin, I'm now going to substitute EPK, which is a common kaolin in the US. Again, I click Solve, and Glazy figures out the correct recipe to meet the original analysis. Looking at this recipe, it looks like it has a lot of silica and calcium. So I'm going to try to replace whiting with wollastonite, which contains both silica and calcium. The second I choose wollastonite, the dot for this recipe on the stall chart moves to the right significantly. This occurs because wollastonite also adds silica to the recipe. To fix this problem, all we need to do is click Solve, and Glazy will automatically recalculate the recipe to account for that extra silica. Alright, moving on, let's look at borax. We might not even know what borax is. Typing borax in the field, it is displayed below, and you'll see that it's composed of both boron and sodium. In this case, we're really concerned with the boron. So instead of searching for a material, I'm going to search for the oxide itself, B2O3. Up pops a list of all the materials I have in my studio that include boron. There's calcium borate, various frits, and Guernsey borate. I'm going to choose calcium borate. And then click Solve. And again you see that the original analysis and the new analysis match. The boron levels are identical. What if instead of calcium borate we choose something else that contains boron? Let's say Frit 3134. Clicking Solve. Again, Glazy figures out the correct amounts to use. Alright, let's look at the other materials now. Glazy helped us to solve the original analysis by using copper carbonate. But you can see that the original recipe calls for black copper oxide. So let's switch that out. Click Solve, and Glazy automatically figures out the right amount of black copper oxide to add. And lastly, you'll see that Glazy included red iron oxide, but we don't need it. So let's just delete it. Now we have our final recipe, but you'll notice that it only totals up to 99.6%. By clicking the 100% button, we can make it total 100%. So here's our final recipe, totaling 100%, with the new analysis matching the original analysis. Let's save this recipe. Let's click on the name and go to the recipe page. Here's our new recipe, and you can see that it's a revision of KC Blue K2. If we scroll down the page, we'll find the Similar Analyses section. This section shows other recipes in Glazy that have the same or similar analysis as our current recipe. And you can see the first one on the list there is KC Blue K2. Scrolling back up to the recipe, I enter a batch amount of 100. I'll be making a 100-gram batch for testing. I hope this example has shown you how easy it is to recreate a recipe or substitute materials, even if you don't know the language of the original recipe. One word of caution. Just because you can recreate an analysis perfectly using your own materials doesn't mean that the final fired result is going to be exactly the same. There are a lot of variables, from the types of materials that you use to make the recipe, to the type of clay body that you apply the final glaze to, the way you fire the kiln, firing temperature of the kiln, even the way you cool the kiln, can all affect the final result. The only thing you can do is test a small batch and learn from your results. Thank you.